Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rise the Phoenix. I just finished recording kind of an overview about Bag End. I think that video is going to come out before this one, as a lot of people had a lot of questions of what is Bag End and how does it work, now that all accounts after Season 2 are going to be moving into Bag End. And I had a lot on my mind. I didn't want that video to be like a bajillion minutes long. So I wanted to make a second video about kind of like what do I think the pros and cons are of Bag End. I think overall the system has a lot of potential, but there are a few things that I think could make it way better, probably for everybody involved, at least in my opinion. You guys are welcome to argue with me down in the comments below, but before we get to that, if you enjoy my content, please do consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. Welcome back, everybody. So I'm going to do like a 10-second overview of what is Bag End in case anybody hasn't watched my other video. If you want to know more about how does it work, what is it, go check that video out. Basically, it's a lobby between seasons. So after Season 2, instead of merging servers like the in between time between Season 1 and Season 2, where they merge servers together, instead your account moves over to Bag End, where you can sign up with 99 of your bestest friends to play a campaign. Those campaigns will start at a particular time and then drop you and all of your friends into a new server. So we'll take a look at the campaign thing here real quick. Two types of campaigns right now. Rebuilding Glory is non-RP only. This is the game mode that we all know and love, where you're fighting over control of Dol Guldur. War of the Ring, you're escorting Frodo across the map if you're good, trying to stop him from crossing the map if you're evil. So let's go ahead and talk about a few pros and cons of the system and what I would like to see changed. So first of all, one of the major pros is this is going to allow players to pick the game mode that they prefer, whichever mode they'll have more fun in, or their group of players will have more fun in. I believe they're going to add more of these as time goes on. So it gives those players that freedom of choice, which I think is definitely a good thing. Some people are going to really like escorting Frodo across the map. Some people are really going to like backstabbing every alliance they make and claiming the ring for themselves. You know, whatever you prefer, that's what you should play. That's what you should go with. One con, I think, and unfortunately I don't know that they're actually going to change this, is Rebuilding Glory is now non-roleplay only. So every faction can use any kind of commander and any kind of unit that they want, good or evil, doesn't matter. Whereas War of the Ring, this kind of makes sense, is locked to RP only. So personally, I'm a huge fan of roleplay servers. That's why for me and the guys I play with, that's kind of a con, because I think we would really like to stick with Rebuilding Glory in general, but we also want to stick with roleplay. So now we're kind of in this awkward position of, do we play the game mode that we want that's not roleplay, or do we play the game mode that we don't really want to play necessarily, you know, if we could pick between the two, that is roleplay. So I don't know what we're going to decide yet. For me, you know, that's unfortunate. It is what it is. For you, maybe it doesn't matter because you're already playing non-role play. Anyways, so another thing that I like, I kind of like it and dislike it, is the whole idea of teams. So between these campaigns, you're allowed to create a team, and then people can sign up for your team, and all the members on that team are guaranteed to land in the same server. I think there should kind of be two changes to this. So first of all, maybe this is somewhat of a unique issue, is my Discord community is pretty big. I mean, I'm not trying to say that to brag or anything. We're certainly not the biggest community out there, but we could easily fill 2 to 3 fellowships with players. However, we're only allowed to bring 100. And as far as I know, there's no way to guarantee that, like, let's say these were my 2 teams, these first 2 here. I don't think there's any way to guarantee that we're going to land in the same server. There's a chance, but do we really want to take that chance? And then we all get split up, kind of awkward. So one change I would really like to see is to allow larger size teams. Let's say you have the default of 100, you could probably even drop it down to like 50. I mean, if we look at some of these teams here, like none of these are actually full. Let's actually check War for the Ring. What is their team list looking like? You have some big teams, but you have a lot of smaller teams as well. So I feel like you could potentially drop it down to 50. And then have an option for bigger teams. Let's say 200, 300, 500, whatever the devs in their data decide would be a good number based on their player metrics and all of that. Allow for larger teams. Now people will say, oh well, if you take 500 players into a server, then you're just going to completely dominate all these smaller groups of people. Yeah, you're absolutely right, but I think you can just let the small groups play against other small groups and let the big groups play against other big groups. Maybe there just aren't enough big groups out there to make that viable. Like maybe it would be the same 5 groups of 300 players fighting each other every single season, and then that would get boring. I don't know. It would be really interesting to have some feedback in that regard on like how many really big groups are there out there. But it's really unfortunate because as it stands, I'm going to be having to say goodbye to some people that I've been playing with for a very long time simply because we're just not allowed to play together anymore. And so like taking that away from people, in my opinion, it's just really awkward. Um, and it just feels really bad. Like me and my co-leader, we've spent 7 months, 7 to 8 months now building this community. I mean, we met as like a group of less than 100 on our first season in Arnor. And like a lot of us have stuck together ever since then, and just meeting new people, making new friends, building up the community. And in my opinion, one of the things that makes this game so great and makes it stand out from other games is that human component, that human interaction, particularly in the Rebuilding Glory game mode, where you're allowed to make alliances. But like there's nothing that enforces that necessarily. You can say, hey, let's be friends, and then go to somebody else and say, oh man, I really want to be your friend instead, so let's kill those guys even though I told them we'd be friends. Obviously, the reputation that you build has consequences, but that level of political intrigue that you get, and then just the grudges and making friends, like there's been people that were my enemies that became my friends. I think a lot of that is going to be lost because if I've got my group of 100, why do I need new friends? Not like I can play with them anyway. So to me, like I said, it's just kind of awkward that it's limited to 100 players. I would really love to see them change it to where it could be 300, 400, 500, whatever. Anyways, the second thing, number 2, I'm really bad at this camera thing if you guys haven't noticed yet. The second thing I think would be really, really helpful as far as balancing the population of the game is, so right now if we register a team registration, yada yada yada, review, we'll put review because we actually don't want anybody joining this team. All right, boom. So we have our team here, we've registered it, we can give our friends this code, they can join our team. I think they should add one more step to this process that allows you to choose a faction, and then everybody in that team just gets dropped into that faction. Because let's face it, unless somebody accidentally screws up, if you're signing up with 99 of your best friends, you're all going to want to be in the same faction. Oh, excuse me. You're all going to want to be in the same faction anyways. And I think this could allow the devs to say, all right, we need like 500 Mordor players and 450 Angmar players and 500 Gondor players, or however the numbers work out. I think picking a faction as part of this process before the campaign starts would allow them to balance things out to a greater degree, and it would also remove the possibility of having to wake up at like 4 in the morning just to make your account in the faction that you and your friends want to play, uh, so that you don't have to risk waiting another 6 hours or whatever it is, and then that faction being full. They somewhat do this as far as the War of the Ring goes. I've already registered for Rebuilding Glory. Anyway, when you register for War of the Ring, you get to pick good, good, random, or evil, and that way, I think, hopefully, I mean, I've heard it's really unbalanced, but I would hope they would use that to try and balance the population out so that good doesn't have like 4 times the players as evil in the War of the Ring, because you cannot ally cross faction in the War of the Ring. As far as Rebuilding Glory goes, as long as your faction is 400, 500, 600 players, pretty full faction, you still have a chance, even if there's only one full evil faction and a bunch of full good factions. Just the fact that evil and good can make diplomatic deals, it doesn't matter as much if evil is outnumbered. Of course, there's going to be cases where, one side gangs up on the other, but at the end of the day, that kind of comes down to politics. So I think 2 major changes. Oh, here I go with my fingers again. Just to recap real quick at the end, would be allow teams of more than 100 to sign up and put them against each other. That way, you're not just stomping on all of these smaller teams, because if you put a group of like 6 teams of 50 against one team of 300, odds are that that team of 300 is going to have more cohesion and more organization than the 6 teams of 50, even though the numbers are actually equal. So yeah, let the big teams fight big teams, small teams fight small teams, and then have people register for a faction when they make the team and just drop people into that faction. That way it avoids the situation of people logging in at ungodly hours of the night just to make the account so they don't get locked out of playing with their friends. So that's the general pros and cons. Overall, I think in the end this could be a very good system, because I wonder if I can unregister for this. I'll figure it out after the video. Because it allows you to make sure that you stay with your friends. It allows you to pick the mode that you want to play, and it gives you more control over when your season starts so that you don't wind up starting on a holiday or your birthday or a trip or whatever it may be. Granted, that's still going to happen sometimes, but if half of your squad is in the States and is going to be celebrating Christmas, you all can agree to say, yeah, okay, let's start next, 5 days later, next time, whatever it is. So I do enjoy that flexibility aspect. I just hope they give us a little bit more, just more options to work with as players in terms of the team sizes and picking factions, to get rid of some of those pain points of having to say goodbye to people or getting locked out of a faction. So, all right, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something useful. Let me know what you think about my pros and cons down in the comments. Is there something that I forgot about, or is there some other pro or con that you think was worth mentioning? Let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next one. Rise of the Phoenix, over and out.